Hey, Paisano, this is part 3 of a 6-part podcast. Be sure to start with the playlist in the description. Anyway, on with the show.
Imagine. Also, before we change the whole subject of the IC page, I did want to ask, like, what is the common consensus here of, like, did the IC pizza box actually wink at Noel? Because I personally just thought it was, like, had childhood imagination, even though I know it's, like, a lot of stuff with IC, but then I did a poll about it, and it's, like, 75% of people believe that this box really did wink at Noel, so I just kind of wanted to hear people's guesses.
I don't think this kind of blog. Dun 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 dun.
Everything about Icy is really mysterious because, like, I mentioned this in my Sans, Undertale, and Deltarune videos, but the fact that Icy is all over the place in Deltarune as a pop culture icon, yet the only time he's even referenced in Undertale is the crossword, is quite interesting, because it seems like, because Icy's got his own movies, he's got his own restaurants, magazines, and pizza
body
pinups.
Spray.
Yeah, he's got body spray. Like,
spray for the boys.
Icy is kind of a big deal in this setting, and I just wonder where Toby is going with this, because I feel like we're absolutely going to get an Icy's Pizzeria Dark World at some point.
Yeah.
Yes. I think, well, obviously the Icy being on Sans' word search is fodder for the Sans is from Deltarune thing, which I think there's a potential there. I just don't know how it works quite yet. For Icy and Deltarune, I see two plays that Toby has here. One of which is the obvious one where Icy is very clearly just a sort of an allusion to internet urban legends. It's Slender Man, it's Herobrine. It has the exact same aesthetic, so it could be him just humorously making his own one of these things. Just to have an in-universe Slender Man, kind of like Andrew Hussey made an in-universe shitpost blog that so his characters could meme about it in Homestuck. Or the higher level play is that he does that and then subverts it, and Icy is actually a real thing and becomes plot relevant later on after everyone is lulled into thinking that he was just parodying Slender Man. I'm leaning toward the former personally, but there's always a possibility of the latter.
Brett did do a video.
My money is on Toby making it real to mess with us.
I could see that because, like, I feel like he wants us to pay attention to Icy because there's even the whole Icy sighting page and the fact that there's apparently a blog involving Icy sightings in the Deltarune world.
Oh, that does remind me. On the topic of the Icy sighting page, the theory I've had in my head for a while now, because, like, on that page, they make it clear that this is not part of Noel's blog. It's its own separate website that's Noel has been, like, constantly submitting sightings to.
So this is mainstream.
Yeah, and my main current theory is that Chris runs that site and made it just to further screw with Noel.
Oh, that's really fun.
Because that seems on brand. I mean,
they do that.
We know he kind of like, we know they kind of cyberstalk Noel a little bit, like, because they were trolling Birdly by calling their phone number. Or we don't know it was Chris who prank called Birdly, but
it's pretty strongly, very strongly implied.
We can safely assume that Chris was up to no good with Birdly's phone number when that was posted.
Oh yeah. So it seems feasible to me that since Chris is the one who popularized this idea with Noel that Icy's a real cryptid, that they would then make a fake website devoted to it. Because Noel was capable of making her own blog, so theoretically Chris could do the same in the form of Icy spottings.
It's I think it's on brand for Toby to make Icy both plot relevant and never actually confirmed to be anything more than an urban legend. I think both are true.
Alternate theory: Icy is real and Chris has been trying to warn us all along.
Insert Half-Bread's Icy April Fool's video here.
What is it? Oh yeah, it was April Fool's, but it was a very serious, real video.
Both.
But the Icy blog, one thing about it is that, I don't know, this sighting comes in courtesy of Noel Holiday, and then it's between quotes, so this is presumably what she wrote. And I don't know, this writing seems like it was ages ago. First of all, it references that deaths, but because all the other Noelle blog posts, they seem more recent. She mentioned Susie as the new girl. And that's, I guess this would put it in, let's say, the current school year.
Yeah.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know, it seems like the IC blog is maybe like an older page.
Yeah, because it's from back when
she's writing like a 10-year-old there.
Yeah.
The style of typing is obviously like very, less sophisticated. Des
and Asriel were still around, so it's interesting. And just a random detail on the topic of IC is that in the alleyway there's the IC
graffiti.
Your graffiti that, and at some point I was randomly just checking the color of like the pixel color code of all of random things, and the
oh my god.
I don't know, it was just something I was doing.
Going deep now.
Yeah.
Hey, you did it too?
Oh no.
Apparently been slacking on this front.
And the color that's used on the graffiti for Icy is the same color of the graffiti used for the tree in the cyber world. Whether that means anything is completely debatable.
If Toby's really
I thought I was the only one who fell down the rabbit hole.
Also, Everyman also is graffitied on that same wall, and Everyman's been another mysterious thing in Deltarune where it's had some hidden appearances and like attack patterns and stuff, but it hasn't really been acknowledged in the story as much as Icy has.
Yeah. There was someone on my Discord a while back who was like, the everyman truther is like, this is the key to the whole plot, trust me. And there's a lot of little appearances that everyman makes, but there's absolutely no context for him ever. Which is interesting.
It's very
I'm more
random.
likely to think Everyman's the real cryptid of this world than Icy.
Yeah, he's like the out-of-universe cryptid, whereas Icy is the in-universe cryptid.
Something else, too, while we're talking about the blog stuff is, so cat petters became more significant, but if you remember, there is a cat petters video game under Asriel's bed, so that could actually end up manifesting in Chapter 3 somehow.
Oh, I hope so. Maybe this is Toby setting up all the cat petters
Our
lore.
scariest bosses of Undertale were a flower and a farting skeleton that tells dad jokes.
Very
you're
true.
not wrong.
You're true.
Yeah, imagine the next chapter is just a huge cat petters lore dump into...
Oh, one thing I was speculating about was that if I was Toby Fox and I wanted to really shake things up for a chapter or even just a section in a chapter of a Dark World, it would totally be on brand for Toby Fox to have a world or a section of a world where it's just suddenly all actually 3D animated. Not the characters, but like you're fading like claymation enemies and like basically taking the Photoshop Flowey approach, but for an entire area.
He goes into great detail about the animation system of the cats, right? How they're made of circles that morph and like it's a long shot, but like maybe that's an angle, that's his play, is to actually recreate that and for the cat petters segment.
Yeah, somebody actually pointed out that's like I think that part is kind of like more a reference to like the actual like pets, like real life like actual game series, because that's like the how those games like actually like look. So like they're like 3D circles or whatever that kind of make up the animals, I believe.
Yeah, I'm gonna check something real quick. There's a movie about cat petters, Invasion of the Cat Petters. Susie asked about that, but there's also so specifically what's under the bed is Cat Petters RPG. So that seems like it's a spin-off. And
that's like the shitty spin-off of it, not the actual Cat Petters game. Okay.
Yeah, it's the Mario RPG of of the Cat Petters video game franchise.
Something else too, though, is there's a lot of the smaller pages like bluebubble.rodeo where you get to see Susie and Chris in cowboy outfits, as well as the whole mafia vibes in the Shadowman page, makes me think that there's going to be themed genre-based rooms in the TV world. Like, there was already talk of the newscast segment, but I think we'll probably have like a Western. The weather duo.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, the weather duo.
HalfBread is saying from Purgatory that their Discord found the bluebubble.rodeo page early, actually.
Well, but like how?
How?
Well, the blue bubble is on the.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm wondering.
I have no idea. That seems like one of the most obscure ones.
Well,
The blue
Scribbly
bubble is on the
back.
toilet paper. You can
Maybe
like
someone
if you-
worked at the factory that made the Spamton toilet paper.
Okay, so HalfBread was talking about Blue Bubble. Let's hear that story.
Yeah, you can. Well, yeah, go
Like,
on.
I can understand guessing, like, oh, you typed in random things on the Deltarune website, but Blue Bubble?
Yeah, bluebubble.rodeo is insane to get early.
It's the papyrus method. It's like, I started with a
Other
blank string and did
stories, some
everyone
of my mods are
successfully.
terrifyingly good at hacking, apparently.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Dang. They hacked into
Lol.
the toilet paper.
Yeah, but the toilet paper picture you can see the link. So yeah, I guess you found the Deltarune assets, images, toilet paper, and then
That's what I would have done it.
you saw the link.
You've got the
Yeah,
Smash leakers, but like the Deltarune leakers.
The security is only as strong as its weakest link, yeah.
I found it very funny that the link for Blue Road, not the link, but like the text in the what is it? The tab is get ready for 2 minutes of
Mildly
what is it?
entertaining shootout action.
yeah,
it's
which I
probably
think
a
is
minigame.
literal. Maybe like the cowboy section is like
There's 2 minutes and it's a mildly entertaining mini game where you shoot. Yeah.
yeah.
I hope
That's
so.
kind of what I suspect too. I think there might be some mini games in Chapter 3 or like some mini bosses that are themed around movie genres and TV genres.
Did
I wonder
anyone
if-
notice in the this is probably everyone noticed this, but in the Shadow Men page, if you click on them, you get an animation of them in combat, and you're doing some weird attack where you're spamming it looks like soul sprites, just spamming soul sprites at them.
Yeah, and all three
To,
of
like,
the party
knock their
members.
shoes off.
Yeah, all three of the party members shoot him too. And it's not even just Chris, so it's like,
What does that mean?
I mean, presumably
Yeah,
it's like Chris lending them, like it's a Chris action, but like, so they're the ones it's their power, but they're spreading it out because they can do that apparently.
Yeah,
There's
I-
a small
interesting.
chance to get Lancer instead.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Shadow Man?
The changing
on the
room.
current.
Yeah.
Speaking of the shooting the mini souls out thing, I actually was just like talking to a friend about this, but like it is weird like how the red soul like is in Chris's body, yet like it kind of acts for the whole party. Like even if Chris is down, you still have to dodge with the red soul. Like if the red soul gets hit, then other people can still get hit. It's very weird.
And when
I
Susie
almost,
fights Lancer,
Yeah.
Even when Susie,
Yeah.
that's been
Yeah.
one of the hardest things to figure out for me, like going way back, is the exact
Yeah.
relationship, because you get into this sort of temptation to say that this is just
game
contrived for the
mechanic.
sake of it being a game.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh god, but where do you draw that line though with this? Like, it's a soul, right? Those are really important.
And, like I was like pretty firmly in the it's a game mechanic camp for a while, and then Toby Fox did that live stream with the 1 year anniversary where he was like, "Hey, notice how Chris's soul comes from the top right? That's intentional. Remember that." And it's like, son of a. Now I have to figure
when I
this
first
out.
learned how to change party members, I realized that not having Chris actually crashes it, because you can't enter a fight with a soul. But you can enter with like 3 Rouse without a soul.
That's interesting.
I mean,
that's very weird.
Maybe that's just an accidental case of the programming of the game reflecting the lore.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we'll have
Yeah.
to wait and see what we learn more about the Red Soul, 'cause I feel like it's definitely going to be expanded upon later.
Oh,
Because, like,
definitely.
especially with Spamton putting so much emphasis on the heart-shaped object and how he wanted to use it to become a real boy. Like, the Q&A even kind of leans into, like, so if a Darkner takes a Lightner's soul, can they go into the light world without turning into their object form?
and if Spamton did succeed, would he look like Spamton or would he look like Spamton A Spamton?
He'd look like fan art of Spamton, the twink fan art.
Oh no, he's become a Tumblr sexy man.
Yeah.
You're,
He'd look like Sans, because Sans is the ultimate Tumblr sexy man.
True. That's his
He
origin
just
story.
maps to Sans. Oh,
Spamton
dear.
after not surviving. They were hinting at it all along.
Yeah, but
I love
Spamton
seeing
uses
that.
the same language in that tweet as he does in game, but I feel it's always very strongly implied that getting a soul makes a Darkner able to enter the light world. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's horrifying. It's like, because Spamton Neo getting into the light world sounds pretty nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I assume they change, like, forms a little bit, or at least, like, you know, if in the same way, like, a monster gets a human soul, I would assume that they transform a little bit to, like, you know, not just be, like, I don't imagine it's just like, okay, this is literally just Spamton Neo exactly how he looks just in the light world.
We'd get
What
like
happens if
Photoshop
a darkner
Spamton.
touches a dark fountain?
That's a good question, actually.
We don't know that either, because
Yeah.
that was another thing in the Toby Fox stream, was they mentioned he mentioned offhandedly that the dark fountain may have been responsible for changing the king's behavior or influencing his behavior, and it's like, that's kind of important. But what does it mean? You know, it's like, did it affect Queen? Like, because she does act more cruel when near the end, when we're close to the Dark Fountain.
It gets super confusing to interpret how the Dark Worlds are created retroactively, because Queen's exact wording is that it was like, today the night deigned to create this world, and then also Sweet Cap and Cake say that the night made the Queen more aggro, basically. So it's like, this place has existed, but also it was created today, and also the fountain appearing made the Queen go nuts.
Yeah.
But also the fountain is the reason anything existed in the first place.
Yeah.
Very confusing.
It's interesting.
Quick side tangent, because I was just control Fing my way through the Deltarune dialogue dump, and cat petters, every time it is mentioned in the game, it's either, they mention a cat petters too, it's either Bratty or Catty. I think it's Catty who mentions it, and then there's Cat Petters RPG, and then there's Susie talking about Invasion of the Cat Petters, so I think it's definitely a franchise with tons of different spin-offs.
Yeah.
Sprawling media franchise.
Yeah, it's like,
it is funny.
Seems correct.
I assume Cat Petter, the main character, is voiced by Chris Pratt.
Oh no.
First name Cat, last name Petter.
Yeah. Middle name Bob.
It is funny how, like, Cat Petters and, like, Dragon Blazers are both, like, whatever, like, throwaway names before this, and now they're, like, major, like, plot elements now that the Sweepstakes stuff has come out.
Fuck you, it's plot relevant. Get researching. Do it.
Did you tweet about Cat Petters being like a reference to some game specifically?
So in the context of the Noel blog, Cat Petters is a reference to the game Pets, which came out, I want to say, in the 90s. Pets game. Let me just grab an image, but the visuals...
Cats 2 actually came out in 1997, someone pointed out, which is...
That's actually a good point. So, like, here I'll throw in just for the chat reference. So the visuals of the games like Cats and Dogs... They are made of circles and stuff. So basically, that is what the game that Noel played is based off of. And you can even modify them, and people did, to have, like, cartoon characters and stuff.
Oh, The Simpsons and stuff, right.
Yeah, and, like, when you braid them, they do get kind of messy looking, like Noel described. So this is all, like, a very faithful description of the game, the Pets games.
Okay. So, yeah, Toby's drawing from experience, I guess.
Okay.
And, I guess Dragon Blazer is just some JRPG, maybe.
Yeah, so, while we're on the topic of Dragon Blazers, I wonder if it would be worth retroactively looking back at the dialogue about the game. Specifically, Susie says something to Birdly. I'll have to find it again. Let me just search Dragon Blazers in the Blazers.
I got ya, fam.
She mentions like a specific part. Oh, when a party member is down, but you still help her because she's part of the
Dragon
team.
Blazers, your sister being cursed.
Yeah.
Even though her stats suck, she's still your party member.
Yeah, the things about Dragon Blazers I know is, one, the thing that somebody pointed out, which is cool, was when Noelle gets into and is getting, like, taught how to battle in the Dark World, she says, like, oh, it's like Dragon Blazers then, kind of, like, furthering the parallel between Dragon Blazers and Deltarune, since when she talked about the weird links popping up on the Dragon Blazers website, it's a parallel to the Deltarune.com website.
Oh, yeah,
true.
Yeah.
This is what I was... Oh, keep going.
If Dragon Blazers is an in-game reference to Deltarune, which it seems to be, this might be foreshadowing. I have a lot to say about this.
It's extremely meta, because essentially what we have here is we have all these ideas of glitch hunting and video game creepypasta culture being brought up in a video game. And so it seems like Dragon Blazers is almost like Deltarune's way of talking about itself in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
When she learns her attack Ice Shock, it's the same name of the spell from Dragon Blazers. The spells are Ice Shock and Fire Shock.
Right. Yeah. So it's like we have... When Noelle's talking about finding... The secret she
describes is similar to the Spamton door.
Yeah.
That's true.
When Noelle's talking about finding the secret maze in Dragon Blazers...
And when we were on the blog page...
You're thinking about finding the secret egg rooms in the Dark Worlds, and... So it's like, there's two levels here. We have Noelle doing this in fiction, within the game's fiction.
She says there's a certain number of secrets, like 22 secrets left right.
Yeah. Her page tracks the number of links left on the actual website.
But the number kept increasing as Toby added more pages.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. The other things about Dragon Blazers, which is actually like set in Deltarune, is that, at least that I remember, was like when Noelle was playing it with Rudy. The two details that I remember were that like there was a character or a party member's like sister who was cursed, which seems to be, kind of pointing to death.
Bit on the nose.
And then the other one, the other one was that a mage like left the party, which could be foreshadowing based on the routes that I've heard a few times, but
or even Noelle not coming back.
The cursed sister was in the hospital playing with Rudy, or was it
that was what Susie says in the Dark World.
The Susie line, and the mage left the party. That's why she can't use.
She was just dissing Birdly. That was the reason.
I'd love to dad, but the mage left the party.
You can talk now, I promise.
Okay, it's all right.
It's interesting. Somewhat related is. I've been looking at, I've been paying a lot more attention to the element system ever since Spamton gave the lore dump on elemental pairs. And one thing that's kind of stuck out to me as a potential future element that's going to be expanded on is dragon. Because we've already had animals and stuff as an element, like rabbits and mice and whatever. And something I'm beginning to notice it kind of piling up how... in Undertale, dragons barely exist. There's like one dragon NPC with like 2 lines of dialogue and
in the hotel.
There's a couple of dragons. Like there's one of the royal guards.
Yeah, I forgot about him. But in Deltarune, it's like how to draw dragons. All the Dragon Blazer stuff, which keeps popping up. It's unclear.
Important history of Tem.
Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
I completely forgot about that.
Wait, what? What about Tem?
The painting in Tem Village of Tem riding on this giant Chinese dragon.
Yeah.
Rich history of Tem.
Good catch. But point is, it was pretty background. Whereas in this game, it's like you're constantly like running into the word dragon here and there throughout it. And it seems incredibly likely that the How to Train Your Dragon, or not How to Train Your Dragons, How to Draw Dragons book will lead to us encountering some sort of dragon creature in Chapter 3. So
I'm wondering...
And I've even made the speculation at one point, because Susie's axe is mentioned to be made from a dragon's mane. So it's like, it might be that Susie's a dragon. Who knows? I mean, I don't really have
That's what I was going to say. Like, how much of this is just set up for a really awkward conversation when Susie has to fight the How to Draw Your Dragon mini-boss?
That would be incredible.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
It's because, that'd
Susie's
be great.
secret tale reveal moment.
Right.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed actually. I thought was kind of weird is like that Toby seems to be putting a bit more emphasis on like the species or the animal components of the monsters now in Deltarune. I feel like there's more references to like Birdly being a bluebird and Noelle being a deer, and there's more sort of like that kind of Zootopia-ass humor going on.
Yeah. Because
I don't know how that ties into the lore. It's just something I've noticed.
Yeah. I mean, it would kind of make sense that it would become, I don't know, because like in Undertale, since the monsters are all kind of like, they're all in it together, they're all trapped in the same underground, but in Deltarune, presumably they can go wherever, and so it would make sense that there'd be a little bit more emphasis culturally on their type of monster, now that they're no longer all...
Yeah, I guess if you want to...
If you want to dive into it that way, but it could also just be that Toby Fox wants to use it for the element system, so he's bringing it up more.
Yeah, that's a good guess. And speaking of Susie, I thought that, and we haven't really talked about it all, I mean, we mentioned it earlier, but the whole Chris and Susie situation before the, the events of Deltarune that Noelle talks about, like,
Yeah.
it's just really crazy. It makes you remember, like, these two, like, or Susie really hated Chris. Like, it's easy to look now and be like, wow, they're best friends, cool. But, like, it's just crazy the 180 that really did happen with their friendship here.
It's kind of insane.
I find it interesting that both in the Noelle
What I find
blog
interesting
post.
is Chris always liked Susie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Always
Chris-
liked Susie?
Yeah, well, Chris, in the page, Chris, like, doesn't get remotely fazed by Susie's bullying. They like sitting where they sit. They laugh at her, like, picking on them. And I think, with Susie's, like, targeting, I think she's projecting. I think she might be jealous of what Chris has, and also just the way she's...
because
oh, go ahead.
Because in both chapter 1, when she bullies Chris, and in this Noelle blog post, it seems like a big part of what's mentioned is she focused on Torio in both times, it seems, so maybe it has to do with that, projecting, or maybe some envy of the family vibe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely.
I definitely got the vibe that... Yeah, no, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I'm 99% convinced that Noelle comes from the stock broken family of mother left, she blames herself, dad's a insert derogatory term here. It's like that's just the general vibe she gives.
You mean Susie, to be clear?
Did I say Noelle?
You mean
I meant
Susie?
Susie. Sorry, I meant Susie.
There's a I don't know. I think it's pretty clear that Queen is supposed to be represent Noelle's mother, and I guess the twin theory to that is that the relationship between Lancer and King is supposed to parallel whatever is going on with Susie's family.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Like, and
that could be.
because like I always thought that there's a decent odds that King was supposed to be a stand-in for Susie's father, because they both share lines about. They say the same things to Chris, and then it would make sense if that's the direction they're going, and it kind of makes me wonder if the final boss of Chapter 3 won't be some sort of boogeyman figure for Torio, which is unfortunate because that would make
What if it's just Asgore?
That's what I was just thinking, which is really
also,
unfortunate.
when Susie is talking to Lancer about leaving.
But what would okay, now
Lancer
Tena
is trying to tell
a...
her about his father.
No, I don't know. Tena being like a Asgore metaphor seems too silly.
What?
No, that would be.
Can't
Hear
take
me
Asgore
out.
seriously.
I was a
Yeah.
little bit.
But she doesn't understand that he wants him to not die.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah,
She's kind of oblivious to that.
She just assumes he's fine with it.
yeah. That does imply that she doesn't view fathers.
Everybody bleeds.
Yeah, she doesn't like Papa Susie too much.
If we, if we look at the dialogue from the blog post again, it seems to imply, because Susie she says that one day your mother's going to abandon you and then you'll realize how happy she was without you. That more speaks of like her projecting her own feelings of, like Susie doesn't believe that her parents want or like her.
Yeah.
Then she acts, and then she just hates them specifically.
Yeah. And
Her parents kinda suck, it sounds like.
Okay, but hear me out. There's the theory that Susie ran away from home. So it's possible that she ran away and came to hometown, and she's actually, like, living on the streets, and that's why she drinks the milk that Alphys puts out, and that's why she's hesitant to call her parents and stuff. Like, there could be a whole thing with that. Or there could also just be a whole thing of, definitely her feeling unloved by her parents and kind of envying that Chris, despite being a human in a town full of monsters, is still loved by their mother. They have a lot in common as kind of delinquent types, and yet Chris is treated with so much love and has at least people who are nice to them, like Noelle.
yeah.
Yeah. The whole story about Susie being a runaway, it's more dramatic, but I just have to always think about like how does she enroll in school without a house address, not being from the town, without parents? Like it just seems too implausible.
Yeah, I'm more inclined to think that like dad is in town.
That's a
mom's
thing.
not.
Homeless kids do exist in school.
It is? Okay.
What if she's a foster kid? Like,
I guess
she's
that's possible,
been
then.
transported
Have
from
you not
town
heard
to
of those?
No.
Honestly, no, but
I have not. I would
Dang.
assume that if Susie really was, and like Toriel knew about it, or like the people of hometown did know, I would assume that they would definitely try and like get somebody to like, you know, like let Susie live with them. I don't think they're like the kind of people that would just be like, oh, you're homeless? Okay, well you can come to school, but it's fine, like whatever.
Yeah, it seems like in a
The
small
trick is
town.
not letting someone know about it.
Oh,
That's
I see.
true. She
Yeah,
could be
if
hiding
she's
that
homeless, then
homeless.
she's trying to hide it somehow. But there's another theory, and I think it's quite convincing that she used to be from a human settlement, and that explains some things about why she would be embarrassed by her tail, which I would assume is something that like a lot of monsters have, and some other
I think
weird
so.
lines like, you know, everybody bleeds and such.
Yeah, I think that's a
kinda
pretty feasible theory.
I kind of thought that was silly because like every part of her body is visibly non-human. It's like that you're going to be hung up on the tail, but not like your shark teeth or having purple skin. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the human settlement thing. I feel like it's just one more element to like blur the thing when it's.
But
Go
it is
ahead,
weird to
Jerma.
like be you know, embarrassed about your tail.
True.
I don't know, maybe like that.
Human
Maybe
beings are ashamed of parts of their body.
yeah, and I guess
In a
like
normal
maybe
human society with no mosenters.
maybe tails are considered cute, or maybe, and she doesn't want to be seen as cute. I don't know. Maybe she wants to be seen as
I was
stuff.
reading it as that like
Monsters.
anime-ass trope where there's this one really specific hang-up and the character gets all flustered over it 100%
Yeah.
of the time. So
Yeah. Here's something funny, an interpretation I saw, and I mean, I don't want to be too rude. I don't believe it. I think it's kind of copium. But the theory goes that on Noelle's blog, there are the normal pages, which have like the pink background and all that stuff. And then there's the dark pages, which have all the black background. And that the dark pages are not canon, and that they are a warped version of an actual memory as viewed through a shadow crystal, and therefore, therefore, Susie never acted like a horrible person to Chris, and you can continue to like her as a character.
That's a stretch to me because, like,
Definitely
Susie,
a lot of jumps in logic there.
Susie
I'm gonna
was
go ahead and
terrible
say
to.
unlikely.
Susie was terrible to
I've met
Chris at the
kids
start
who
of
are
chapter
ashamed
1.
of their naturally blonde hair, or their chests, or bum, or their nose or mouth. It's this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be like that for
Yes.
Susie. But on the topic of the pages and stuff, I think people forget that Susie, like, threatened to eat Chris's face off in chapter 1, slam them
Oh, yeah.
against the locker. Like, she
Yeah, she was
really
violent.
mean.
Yeah.
So this is
Violent.
nothing new. I think 100% it's a case of jealousy and projection, and I think what Chris might have said to, like, set her off is, like, maybe something like, go ahead, or, like, something pointing out her own emotional vulnerability, like, either go ahead and
okay.
make them disappear.
This is going to be a whole. We have to have the discussion about what Chris said. Of course, that's been a talking point
I
ever
use
since
that
here.
moment when trying to explain why it's a reference is not an excuse to break the rules on my Discord. Lol. Like if you abuse someone, that's still bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was like and now I likely won't find it, but there was about the, what is it? Yeah, what did Chris say? There was a meme about it, and it's like was one of those moral alignment D&D memes, but it like had like 9 different options, and it was pretty extensive.
seen
but
that.
it was presented as a meme. So I'll try to find it because I think
Yeah, try to find that.
Is Chaotic Evil Bazinga?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
I think the Bazinga was there, unironically.
Why is it called oven when you oven the hot food? It's a
One small mouth movement from Chris.
But there were like 4 like real possible ones that were like,
right. I see.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because the way it's described is Susie doesn't get mad. She doesn't like, it's not like that. Noelle, the way she describes it, it sounds like Susie gets scared. She's like immediately shuts up and leaves. And to me, that doesn't mean Chris just really clapping back with some good murdered by words rhetoric. That it has to be something weird, something fucking really personal and deeply unsettling that Susie just was not prepared to hear.
Yeah, I kind of took it as like she was like kind of just like waking up to like how like it, like she was just projecting her own situation onto it. So she was like, you know, just getting emotional about it and then just like ran away and then held her head down, like in front of, I forget where they say it was, like in front of the door to the school or whatever. That was how I kind of interpreted it the first time.
Yeah, to me, like just saying something personal, like pointing out that like, oh, like you think about your mom, I think that would just make Susie more mad. I think it has to be something even more weird and specific personally.
Yeah, it has to like really cut. But like in a way that, because like going with the whole she's projecting thing, it's like, I don't know, it's like the only thing that I can really think of that might work like that would basically be like, you know, do it. You know, like,
yeah, I think something like that.
Like just him, because she would be staring right into his or into their creepy red eyes. So if like they were like unironically were like, I want you to kill me, that might do the trick. Like, because if Chris is like depressed about Azrael leaving, it would not be like, because I feel like Susie's definitely the kind of kid who's like all big talk, but when it actually comes down the line of, okay, prove it, do it, eat my face, you know, it's like she doesn't have it.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
That's
I think
a
Chris might
guess.
Chris could be the kind to call her bluff, I think.
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna be able to find it, but I think one of the ones that was in that image was something akin to, you know, Noelle's watch.
And it mirrors the Chaos King.
Which I like. I think it's pretty interesting.
Oh, Noelle's watching. Oh, yeah.
Show my son the monster you really are.
Yeah, I could see something like, definitely there's a couple of different reads. I definitely don't think it would have been like a Ligma thing, because I think that would have just frustrated her more than anything.
Fucking funny, but
that's in the same category as Bazinga. That's just
100%.
What I think Halfbread is asking, what's Ligma? Does anyone know what Ligma is for Halfbread in chat?
I seem to have forgotten.
It slips my mind. I'll text it to you later if I figure
we
it
can
out.
edit that in and post. That's fine.
I saw everyone in chat saying Birdly, and I was like, this is some Ligma. I can't even engage in this.
But the other thing that I think is important is that either like Susie's mentality about like how Toriel views Chris like completely changes from that time, that like that in Noelle's blog post, and between the time that we see like, you know, the chapter 1 like locker scene. Like she's convinced initially that, you know, Toriel doesn't really care for Chris, or at least not enough that like she'd be like happier when they're gone. But then in, you know, chapter 1, she seems pretty convinced that like, oh, you're lucky that you have like a mother who like actually cares for you, you know, like that Toriel would be sad if Chris was actually gone.
Yeah, Susie was talking shit. She doesn't actually think that Toriel would be happy. Or
to make her bury
child.
her own child, yeah.
Which, good Undertale reference, Susie. I didn't know you played the game.
While we're on the topic of the friendlock posts and the pages, I want to talk briefly about the Chris Dreamer one too, because that also shed some interesting light about them, not only in terms of like the whole thing with Susie, but just the fact that they seem to like have some kind of trauma that they can only seem to process through the piano.
Yes.
The piano.
The piece being titled Pain, Pain,
I've
Pain,
heard some
Pain.
dubious theories about that scene. Oh man. So okay.
Very, very weird.
Just asking, who here thinks that scene is evidence of Chris in their childhood still being possessed? Because that's the way I've heard some people theorizing. They suddenly get possessed to go play the piano, and I don't believe that for a millisecond.
Wait, do they mean possessed by the player?
Oh, here,
because
the Chris Dreamer Chris page.
I was using brain bleach.
Yeah, because one of the things about one of the evidence about Chris acts weird when he's being controlled by the player is that they are unable to play the piano in the hospital.
Yes, that's like the one thing.
Yes, that's the one thing.
But I mean, it's exact opposite of what you'd expect if Chris was possessed. Then, like, they wouldn't be able to play the piano.
Yeah, well, the thing is, people get hung up on them getting very still, but she specifically says, like, they were remembering something, and if Chris knew something about what happened to Des, that could be why, and, like, they try to have fun and hang out with Noelle, but then they remember something about her sister, and they're really not good with words, and so they go to the piano as a way to just channel what they're feeling and just get that out. I could see that being what's going on.
Yeah, that's possible. It does seem like it would have to be more than just, I want to play piano, because that's like
this actually brings me back to the couch, weirdly enough.
Oh, okay.
What about the couch?
Oh yeah, because Noelle was laying down on the couch listening to the piano. Is that
us or the couch in the green room?
With the crack, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, but what about, why is that green room the Deltarune / RAM?
Oh yeah,
on that?
Notice the green one, which is Azriel's, looks like a sleeve.
Oh yeah. Let me
like there's like a hole, right?
Oh yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah, let me take a look.
But Chris doesn't have that hole.
It's like an extruded Azriel sweater that turned into a couch.
Oh, you're right.
Twice. Let me just remove that attachment. It's sent twice for some reason. But yeah, one of them has the kind of look like Azriel clothing.
Mm-hmm.
But the other one just looks like a couch with a crack in it.
Wearing your feelings on your sleeve is a way to say you're open about your feelings.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a really good metaphor if that was what Toby was going for.
Chris doesn't do that. They hide their feelings.
Oh.
It doesn't look like a sleeve to me. It could be just like a sweater by itself. I think we're going too far down the association rabbit hole there.
We're talking about the hole. The left couch seems to have a hole in to the left of it.
It looks like an article of
clothing.
Let's
say the part that faces the screen. And
it's got like a donut hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems pretty.
Why doesn't Chris have that?
I mean,
I don't have an idea.
I mean, it could just be reflecting the fact that their entire room, like their side of the room, is barren and doesn't have details.
Yeah.
So,
That's exactly what I was gonna say. It's just more detailed. There's more stuff overall, like on Azriel's side of the room than Chris's.
It has details though, like there's cracks and stuff.
Yeah, there's cracks and a little bit of a tear.
Yeah, but like that's just like Chris's side of the room where it's like all.
That's the number one thing that brings to mind for me is like how Chris's like shelves are just like empty and barren, and it's a very simplified version of that we have.
Yeah, I think it's a good immediate visual connection, but I think that the idea that Brett is coming up with would make an interesting contrast, because like everyone who talks about Azriel like talks about how openly emotional he was. Like Alvin talked about the way he would come crying to confess about video game sins, and so Azriel seems to be way more extroverted, whereas Chris, like, they are very awkward in terms of, they seem more of an introvert.
Very internal kind of. Yeah, that's true regardless, is like they're definitely opposites in terms of how they express themselves.
But it's just interesting to me that, like, Chris would stop playing the moment Noelle was watching them, and I don't know if that was just because they're self-conscious or if there's something deeper. Like, the reason why I kind of lean toward this possibly being a way for them to just work through their feelings and guilt is just, like, it being this negative feeling that creeps up and they need a way to just channel it and get it out of their system. And then if Noelle shows up, it might make it like, oh, this is really awkward. I have an audience now.
It could be. Although I have to say, like, I definitely, it's relatable to me, the whole phenomenon of like someone playing piano, but only when no one's looking. Like my brother does the same thing a lot.
True.
Where it's just like, I know if I come stand behind him and like try to offer a tip, he'll just like immediately lose interest and leave. So it's like, okay. But yeah, there could be more to Chris's behavior there that I'm not comfortable pinning it down any one specific hang up, because it's too vague. I don't really want to go there, but yeah, there could be more to that.